Hey everybody, this is the Camera Commando, and I'm with my good buddy Airborne 80. It's December 31st, 2022, last day of the year, and we're here to say hello to you on this New Year's Eve evening. How y'all doing? What's going on,
Hey,
Airborne?
just I'm digging my avatar, man. This is futuristic and cool. Look at that, man. I wish I had that much hair.
Look at the ears, man. They're nice and little and round.
Yeah, just like other parts of my body.
That's what she said.
Yeah, I find that hard to swallow.
So, just so everybody knows, the reason why we're using avatars today is because we're still working with our lights and our mic setup. So, we're just trying to tweak that. Once we get the lighting all good and it's decent,
That's
hopefully in
not
high
really
def.
true, man. We're doing it because it's fucking cool.
Well,
All
that
right.
it
I
is
mean,
cool.
this is badass.
It is cool.
And since we all know that life is a fucking simulation, anyways, I mean, we might as well just embrace the horror and just, wear our avatars around, man.
Funny you say that. We've been talking. So, what the whole world doesn't know is that Airborne 89, we have discussions all the time on the phone and we go down the rabbit hole so many different places
We love the
and
rabbit hole.
we talk about all kinds of crazy stuff. One of the things we talk about are simulation. There's people out there who talk about you know that this world is a simulation or the things that are happening are weird. We're in the matrix or what have you. I don't know if that's true, but I do know some weird stuff has been happening to me and Airborne. One
Yeah,
of the things.
Commando, hold on a second, man. I don't mean to cut you off,
Go
but
ahead. Go ahead.
I couldn't help but notice you're kind of a dark brown. You wouldn't have to be Mexican, would you?
I'm not gonna say.
I like my girls Hispanic. I'm
I
just
like
gonna throw it out there.
I like my tacos. I'll say that.
All right, yeah. So yeah, weird shit happening. You're right, man.
So,
Give us some examples, man.
well, what I was gonna say is we've been talking about it before, but apparently there's a name for it out there. It's called angel numbers, and that's where like you start seeing the same number all the time. I think that's how it's described. But for me, I'll see patterns. Like I'll wake up in the morning and it'll be 444 or 333 or 555. That's one of the things that I see. You said something that was similar. You experienced also. What was it you told me the other day?
I mean, I think we all kind of most people are catching the number thing, but what's been going on with me, and I gotta assume I'm because I see it on TikTok all the time, people talking about it too, but I'll literally be thinking of a sentence, and in that sentence is one of the most unused, obscure words that you probably hear once every 14 years. And a nanosecond before it falls out of my tongue or off of my tongue, the person on the TV in the background will say the exact same word. And, that
Right,
kind of shit happens. Or
right.
you'll look up and a bus is rolling by with an advertisement and it's got that word in it.
Exactly. I don't know what that's called, but I have had many of those experiences this past year where, like you said, somebody's talking on the radio on the in your car, and they'll say the word at the exact same time that you're
Yeah.
reading it on a billboard or looking at it on a piece of paper or whatever. And you're right, it's always these weird words that what are the probability in the universe that you'll hear it and read it at the exact same time? That blows my mind.
Just even that subject is weird. When and I don't know how many people have experiences with just crazy odds. You know how many times I've talked to you and I've been like, man, what are the odds of that? And I've come to believe that there's something. I have no idea what it is, but there's something. It means something. And I just want to give a quick example, and you've heard me talk about this, but when I got divorced, I was living in Los Angeles, and I came out here, and I was dating and engaged to a girl by the name of Arlene. And I just randomly picked where I was going to live because I just didn't care. And I ended up in Arlington, which is kind of weird, Arlene and Arlington. Well, that didn't work out too well. So I kind of got rid of her, started dating this Chinese model from Beijing who 5'10", unbelievable. No, girl, long hair. Anyways, and her name was Lynn. Not a big deal. She moves from New Jersey into my condo, which is right across the street from the Pentagon. And it was at that time that I noticed one day I was coming home and I looked, and I realized I lived at the intersection of, I lived in this town of Arlington. at the corner of Arlington Way and Lynn Street. What are the odds
Yeah, that
of a
is super
guy
freaky.
dating Arlene, dating Lynn, and living at the intersection of both of those names in the town named after the first one? It's got to mean something.
Yeah. I don't know what in the world it could mean or stand for, but I have been noticing it more and more this past year. Like it's like the frequency of it occurring has been happening like every other week, every other day, 2 or 3
Yeah, it's
times.
like the quickening they speak of. Everything seems
Yeah.
to be just moving fast.
Like a quickening is exactly what I was going to say. Now, and the other thing that's been happening, it has always kind of happened. I know you'll agree with this. Like when the phone will ring and you know who it is before you even pick up the phone. I
Yeah.
usually do that with like for some reason if my mom calls me or my sister, I'll know it's them as soon as the phone rings. But also the other person is when you call me, I always know it's you. And you've told me before that it's freaky how I'll call you and you'll be thinking about calling me at the exact same time.
I mean,
I
it
don't know.
just happened 2 days ago. You remember I was talking to my wife and daughter, and my phone was in my back pocket. And the phone rang, and I said to them, I said, if this ain't Camera Commando, I'll eat my own head because I've been thinking of calling him for the last 10 minutes, but I keep getting diverted. I pick up the phone and it's you.
Yeah, that is super freaky.
Yeah. Of
I don't know if that has anything to do with like a
course, you're the only
universal
friend I have
vibe.
in the entire world. So maybe that's why.
No, that's not true, man. I know that's not
Just
true.
kidding.
But so yeah, so there's weird things that you've been noticing and I've been noticing, and I'm sure some of our listeners out there have been noticing happening to them. And by the way, you all, please feel free to comment in the section below and let us know your experiences, because if there's something that strikes a chord with you and you want us to talk about it, just mention it in the comments and we'll go over it. And the next time we have an episode, we'll bring it up. By the way, this is episode number 1, inaugural. So we hope to be doing these more often. We'll see. But back to the Matrix, just odd things happening, the likelihood of which is just unusual. I don't know what to call it. Like I said, the other one I think is called angel numbers. And I think that's when you start to see the same number all over the place. And I believe Jim Carrey made a movie a few years ago. I think it was like 27 or 21 or some number like that, where he was just looking everywhere. They thought he was going mental, but I don't know what else to call it. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I'm not, you're actually the first, you are the one that kind of hit me up to that term with the numbers. I knew the phenomenon existed. I hadn't heard a name for it. And like you said, things are just moving so fast and furious. And it's funny, a lot of the things, I mean, I've always known that there was, obviously deeper meaning to a lot of things, but the older I get, I'm 60 years old, and I know you're not 20 years old, but we're not kids anymore. And you start to think, things we used to perhaps, or I'll speak for myself, used to scoff at are, I no longer scoff at them. I mean, when you look at everything going on from CERN, the particle accelerator and the possibilities and the theories that knocked us into a parallel universe because it changed the neutronic weight by 1 gazilligram or whatever the hell it was. I mean, which with that, you and I were just talking recently about the Mandela effect and how there's theories that might be responsible for it. So you have all these different phenomena happening. You got time seeming to go faster. You've got just this weird palatable feeling settling over the entire population of the earth that something huge is happening. And when enough people's hair stands up, there's probably something getting ready to happen. I know I trust my instincts, and as a collective, I think we all know that things aren't like they used to be. So
Well, not only that, but from back in the day, from being in the military, when you're out in the bush, you're in the zone, you got your game face on, and you're walking through the woods or walking through the desert or the jungle or wherever you happen to be. And if you're on point, or even if you're not on point, you're just in a patrol and everybody's dead silent and watching every step that they make and trying not to hit the tree brushes so that the leaves don't rustle, and watching where you step so you don't crunch leaves or step on a tripwire or step on a mine. Your senses are so in tune with everything that's going on around you, the smells, the sights, the sounds. And from back doing tactical maneuvers, when the first thing you do when you go out of the wire Because once you get outside, you take a knee. Everybody just takes their hat off or their helmet, and you just listen to your environment to get attuned to what's going on around you, so that when anything different occurs or you stop hearing something, you notice. Well, that being the pretense, sometimes even just in normal life, you're driving or you're walking through the woods or you just minding your own business, walking your dog, and then you just get that feeling. You get that weird feeling like when you're in the bush and everything just gets quiet. The crickets stop making noise, the birds quit making noise, all of a sudden just gets quiet. You get that uneasy feeling, that pre-ambush feeling, or somebody's nearby. Sometimes you might get that as a hunter, sometimes as a soldier. Just sometimes just out of the blue, you're minding your own business and you just the hair on your neck stands up and then something happens. And it's like, how did you know that it was going to happen? Is there some sort of energy field around you? How are we picking that up? Because it just seems lately, you get hinky all of a sudden. You just feel like weird. Something's not right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have you been picking up on that?
Well, I mean, I've like you. I mean, we've had pretty kinetic lives in terms of career choices and whatnot. And I mean, I've learned long ago to that I don't need to understand what those feelings represent, but I do need to react to them. And I've, as a prime example is when I was working with LAPD. Sometime we're cruising along at dark 30, and maybe I kill the lights and make a left into a dark alley, and I get that vibe, I get that feeling. I don't keep going. I back out and I'll maybe go around the block and approach it on foot. And sometimes you never know what you changed or if you changed anything. And then there are times when you go there and you find a freaking AK-47 laying next to a dumpster, and you probably just you prevented an ambush. You just don't know. So I wish, I believe we all are endowed with far more senses and sensory possibilities than we're led to believe throughout our lives. And for many reasons, many potential reasons, they're starting to really hone in and become more obvious to even people that may not have relied on them, like military or law enforcement. Or I mean, I see on TikTok all the time housewives, or house husbands walking through the store parking lot, and they'll describe that exact same thing, and they'll go on with a story, and they prevented a nightmare. There's two guys waiting in a van with ski mask on, and you're like, wow. I mean, it's great that people are aware and becoming aware that they have these animalistic abilities.
Well, you know how they say, trust your gut. Well, there's something behind that because they say that
Yeah.
there's more nerve endings in your intestinal tract than in your brain or close to it. There's a heavy concentration of sensory going on in there that sometimes when you get your stomach will tell you, you can't eat that or that's bad for you, whatever, and you have a
Yeah.
response. But that the other thing they call the third eye, the pineal gland in your brain, that's supposed to be some sort of connection outside of ourselves that can be tuned in, I guess, either through the Buddhist monks develop their abilities to tune into that frequency, or maybe some
Yeah.
people are born with it. Maybe children, they're more innocent when they're little and they're more in tune with that frequency. I don't know,
I
there's
don't think
something
you and
there.
I don't think you and I have ever actually discussed that, but it's interesting you bring it up, because that is, if I'm not mistaken, that is the focal point of when a monk, or yeah, a monk reaches Kundalini, or somebody experiences Kundalini. I believe it comes from there. I first became aware of that when I was a young child, reading about astral projection, which I would go on to be able to do later on. It's probably a whole nother video. But all of your extrasensory perceptions and things of that nature, they will stem from that area of our body. So that is depending on who you are, it's a sacred, at the most, at the very least, a dialed into the fabric of the universe part of our physical body.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, I don't remember where I heard it, but and I don't know if this is true or not, but I had heard or read somewhere that through your lifetime that the pineal gland could be affected by what you eat and drink,
Yeah.
specifically halogens. So if you drink, when you drink water, if the water is heavily fluorinated, that
Mm.
it can cause calcification in the pineal gland, so that apparently folks that are in their later years, 70s, 80s, if they pass away and they have an autopsy, if the physician looks at the pineal gland, it'll be like a stone, like very hardened, like a rock almost. And they
Dude,
say
what are
it's
the odds?
from,
And they're dumping chlorine into our drinking water,
yeah.
and have been for a long time.
And that's one of those conspiracy theories that the fluoride is intentional so that it can reduce the capability of this pineal gland to connect to that frequency or that gateway into the other dimensions or whatever the religious piece of that may be, that over time that the fluoride degrades the ability of the pineal gland to connect, kind of like if you imagine like an antenna on a television or an antenna on a radio. You point it in the right direction, you pick up the frequency. Well, imagine pointing your pineal gland antenna in the wrong direction, or shortening the antenna, or just wrapping it in foil to where it doesn't work anymore. So
Well, I
apparently
mean, and that,
aluminum
yeah,
and
go ahead.
fluoride degrade it, is what they say.
Yeah, and someone may say, well, what would be the point? And then all you have to do is just, I'm not saying whether I subscribe to this or not, but you got to be, in my opinion, you got to be free thinking and look at all directions. And so you might ask yourself, well, what's the motivation for the government to do that? Well, I mean, if you were a group of people that were in high power and perhaps had nefarious plans, or plans that the population may not be, you really wouldn't want a bunch of people with their pineal glands highly tuned and realizing just how independent they can be and what other powers they could achieve. Let's just say, you know, you remember, it's much easier to lead an ignorant group of sheep, into the slaughterhouse than it is a group of sheep that have read books on how to avoid the slaughterhouse.
Well, that's true, and there's got to be something else to it as well, because think about the energy that you feel when you're in the presence of a huge crowd, like a
Yeah,
concert or a sporting event or a pep rally at school or what have you. When everybody's yelling and cheering, you can feel the electricity in the
yeah,
room, and it's got to be the magnetic field that people maybe have around them, that when there's
sure.
more of them together, just amplifies
Well,
how loud
go
it
to a
is.
church, go to a crowded church, whether you're religious or not, and when you step into a church full of people that are believing in their prayer or they're worshiping, man, that's a palatable energy. I
Yeah.
remember there's a San Juan Capistrano, has a mission out in California. And anybody that's living out in Southern California, and even if you have been to these missions, just tailgating off of what he was saying and this topic, man, I strongly encourage you to head to that mission, San Juan Capistrano mission, and look for this little chapel they have there. And there's a lot of history. I won't go into it just for lack of time, but it is. I've been all over the world. I mean, I've stood in the Jordan River, where Christ was supposedly baptized. I felt power. I felt energy. Probably one of the top two most energetic places I've ever set foot is that little chapel. And when you
Wow.
look at the hundreds of years and the people that have prayed in there and worshipped there back when the missions were the main line of structures, going north and south along the coast. But I think a blind deaf person could walk in there and know they were in somewhere that was super electrified with
Yeah.
something. These
Well,
places, they absorb the energy, I think.
I would think also that the earth has its magnetic fields, and depending on what's underneath your feet, whether it be rock or soil or sand,
Yeah.
that it could boost that energy, just like they talk about these pyramids are supposed to be basically non-touch battery chargers, kind of like when you put your cell phone down on one of those chargers in a vehicle where it'll charge without actually connecting. It's just proximity charging.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about was, shoot, I lost my train of thought here. The the energy that comes out of the ground, for example, I don't know, I've never seen it done, but I've seen videos and TV shows where people are doing dowsing rods,
Yeah. Yeah. I've
and
done
they get near water or what have you. I have heard that sometimes if you've got an underground river
it.
or stream that goes under your house, that it can affect the magnetic field around your house and create energy oftentimes considered to be negative, to where when you walk in that house, you live in that house, it creates like a heavy feeling that you know, it's palatable, you can feel it, but if you didn't know that there was water there and you didn't know the cause, you wouldn't know where it was coming from, and
Yeah.
you would feel like that house is haunted, or that there's something going on there. But it could all be credited possibly to, you know, a pretty strong river running underneath the strata underneath your house. So again, I don't know if that's true or not. I've just heard it. I thought it was super interesting, but there's definitely something there with energy going on. And I feel like when you're around somebody enough, you can finish each other's sentences, basically.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, you know, people get into biorhythms that are the same. You know, women who are together in groups start to have their menstruation simultaneously. And I don't know if that's from chemistry or brain waves or pheromones. There's something to it.
I
I
don't
just
know,
don't know
but
what it is.
I've always often suspected that you and that we're on the same erection calendar. We're gonna have to chart that out and see.
I don't know. We'll see. Um, what else? So with all this stuff that's going on in the world, man, we're about to start a new year, and there's a lot of predictions out there about the economy and contingency operations going on all around the world. You know, we're pretty thin. A lot of people don't want to join the military anymore. People seem to be tuning out because they're just exhausted with the news. They're exhausted with all the other government mandates on different issues. You know,
Yeah.
interest rates are going up and whatnot. So I think we're going to be experiencing some stress here shortly,
Well,
more
we've got a
stress.
busy year ahead of us, and I think it's one of two things is going to happen. I mean, we're either witnessing the beginning of the end, or we're witnessing the beginning of the beginning. I mean, but one thing's for certain: this time next year, things are going to be a whole lot different. Unless hopefully they're going to be more positive than negative, but we're not going
Yeah.
to remain static. That's for sure.
Yeah, with all the stuff that's going on, man, I kind of find it hard to find the silver lining here. I guess if you were super wealthy and you see the writing on the wall, I guess you could shift your investments around to kind of take advantage of commodity shortages or inflation or what have you. If you've got that kind of cash, I think you and I are kind of, you know, we're positive people, but we're also very worldly and very experienced with what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think we're a little bit more in tuned with the background, the politics, and the news than most people are, because it's kind of like a hobby for us to research this stuff and discuss it back and forth. I don't know about you, but I have noticed definitely around me that the people seem to be completely disconnected. You know, there's a lot of things going on in the world, and when I look around, I don't see that many people acting in a very concerned way. They're just going about their daily lives, bebopping, watching football games, playing video games. And I'm like, don't you know that we're on the cusp of like economic collapse here, or these
Yeah.
major weather catastrophes and power shutdowns? It's like, don't you know that you know, things could be happening here very shortly, and it's just like they're not getting prepared at all.
Yeah, I mean, you know how I feel about this. It's kind of a mixed message on my part, because on the one hand, you're 100% right. People literally are just rolling along like tomorrow's guaranteed. But the opposite side of that is, you know, there's a point that you reach where you almost have to accept, and I hate saying this because, I'm a control freak. I control my environment. I'm not going to be a victim if I can help it, and I usually can help it. But at some point, when the forces are completely aligned against you, so to speak, or in a particular direction, and all of the societal apparatuses have been, depending on what you believe, hijacked, controlled, or are moving in the right direction, if you're of that point of view. When something controls all of the apparatuses that would be necessary to create a change, then there is no change coming. And our reactions are super limited. So I know I find myself sometimes being like, fuck it, man, I'm just gonna go play Call of Duty. And that's not how I am. I mean, I'm usually a person of action, but I got to face reality too. I'm not a young man anymore. And what I think everybody naturally waits for a leader to rise up and lead us in the right direction. And I don't know if that siren's on my end or yours, but something's
Mm,
happening. But
yeah.
yeah, the thing of it is, in today's day and age, if you mark yourself as a leader and stand out of the crowd and you happen to be on the wrong end of the governmental apparatuses and the agenda that side's pushing, you are very quickly going to be missing in action, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, what I'm referring to is, has to do with what they call incrementalism, where things happen very slowly, a little bit at a time, to where you get desensitized.
That's boiling the frog. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, imagine when we were young, the scariest thing we ever saw was the movie Jaws, probably, as far as in the theater, or a monster movie. They
I
they did
saw my
have
mother
some.
naked once. That
Oh
was a
no,
lot
no,
scarier than Jaws.
no, no, no,
Yeah, I'm
no,
still in therapy.
no, no. No, well, what I'm saying is, there were scary movies back then.
Yeah.
Alien, Jaws, um,
The Shining.
Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, there was some scary stuff. But nowadays, you turn on just the regular TV. I'm not going to say what channels, but you can turn stuff on and see absolute, utter gore, bloodshed, and basically what used to be pornography back in the day is just on regular TV now. And it's like people are not even phased by it anymore. And I think that, as a world, as a nation, the morality has degraded, the sympathy for other people has degraded. How many times have you seen a hobo or somebody knocked out on the side of the street, or a fight, and instead of helping or pitching in, people pull out their phones and start recording instead? This
Yeah,
instant
or just walk
Instagram.
by. Yeah.
Yeah. Back in the day, you might say, "Hey, ma'am or sir, are you all right?" You help them up and say, "Hey, are you okay? You need a doctor? You need me to call somebody?" But nowadays, people just laugh and pull out their phone and just start recording.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, we've taken some changes and some turns in society, and unfortunately, most of them seem to be bad. I mean, but regardless of how somebody feels about religion, religion serves at the very minimum a great purpose in terms of giving people hope and keeping a society together and accountable. And yet, religion is really pretty much frowned upon these days. If I mean the Christian religion, anyways, is shrinking in numbers. People more openly are willing to mock religion now than they ever were in my lifetime. I
Yeah.
mean, you're almost uncool if you have a belief.
Yeah.
So
Yet everybody's
it all
other
plays a
religion
part.
is cool now. I mean, you can be a
Yeah,
Jedi Knight, you can be a Wiccan, you can be a Viking
right.
and believe in, Norse
Yes.
gods, but if you believe in Christianity, you get attacked. That's
But
weird.
you talk about Hollywood and the movies, and you see it in the commercials. You're absolutely right. It's the dumbing down of America. And for those that aren't familiar with my reference of boiling frogs, I love frogs and I would never boil one. But the theory goes that if you throw a frog in hot water, he's going to jump right out. But if you put him in cool water and slowly heat it up to boiling, he doesn't realize until it's too late.
That's right.
And so he just sits there and boils. And that's kind of what I think my brother here was referencing in terms of the incremental steps, because it's true. You can watch it. I'm remember, we've all probably seen Frankly, My Dear, I Don't Give a Damn on what the heck was the movie?
Was it Casablanca?
No. It was oh God, what's wrong with me? Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind. That's right.
And
That's right.
so, that was the first test. I mean, people literally shuddered in the theaters and some left, oh my God. He said, Frank, I don't give
Yeah.
a damn. And now, you look at commercials and they're coming super close. There's one commercial, I won't mention the product, where they mouth the word, you got to be out of your, and then they fast change into another scene.
Yeah.
So they're flirting around with dropping the F bomb on commercials,
They're
which
like,
is,
mother father.
yeah. And it's like or shut the front door, and
Yeah.
these are, in many cases, children's products and things. So there's a definite intention to do away with anything structural, anything that is, because if it's every man for himself and we can all do whatever it takes to make us feel good, that's chaos. And chaos, unfortunately, for those that are doing their part to create it, they don't understand that in chaos, the strong eat the weak and the weak disappear. So
Yeah.
I'm not bragging, but a guy like me might welcome a little chaos. I'm certainly not afraid of it. But I would feel bad if, for some of the people that live on my street that maybe lean pretty far to the left and think it'd be great, because it's not going to be great for some people.
Well,
Some people,
some of the things that we've done in our life definitely fall into the category of chaos or controlled chaos or
right?
violence or controlled violence. That's for sure. So we have walked down those fiery corridors before, but the average Joe Schmo that
Yeah,
lives in a house and they work a blue collar job and watch TV, when things go sideways, they're not going to be mentally prepared for what happens when people lose their mind. You saw what happened when they thought they were going to run out of toilet paper. People
yeah,
were fighting each other in the stores for that.
sure.
Imagine what it's going to be like when there's no food, brother. People just don't have gardens in their backyard. And if you've never had a garden and you try to start one, usually you screw it up the first couple of years because you do
Yeah,
everything wrong. Wrong seeds, wrong fertilizer, wrong watering, wrong soil type and acidity. All those things matter. You have to practice.
we got
And man,
generations of people that are used to turning a knob and water coming out of a pipe,
yeah,
and they couldn't
yeah,
conceive in their wildest dreams what it'd be like to have that pipe and have nothing happen and
yeah.
no lights come on. So
Well, this is a really good topic, and I think this might be a good stopping point for us on
yeah,
this particular episode. I think that we have a lot of things to talk about, and we'll just bring that particular item, the fall of society, or
sure.
emergency situations. Let's do that in a separate episode.
Yeah, no shortage of topics, that's for sure.
Roger that. So for now, let's go ahead and sign off this episode. Everybody, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Let us know if you have any questions that you want us to answer. If you have any cool topics you want us to hit, list them down in the comments below or send us an email or a direct message and let us know what you think. And we'll keep making these for you. If you're interested, we'll invite you to participate even. So we look forward to hearing from you guys for your ideas, and let's continue this thread. So you guys have a great evening or day wherever you're at, and be safe out there.
Yeah, stay safe, guys.
All right, thanks a lot.
Out.